What's up, everyone? Today is the day where I share with y'all the best books of 2023 by Black authors. So let's go ahead and get started. So for the past two years now, I've been sharing these videos with you of my top reads of each year by Black authors. I don't know if y'all new here. If you're new here, welcome. If not, welcome back. I do my very best to share with you the experiences that I felt as I was reading these books by Black authors. I still feel the need to support Black authors as much as possible because representation matters. And especially me being a mother and having 3 children of my own, I like seeing books that have them in it, and they love the same as well. They love seeing books and they see themselves in books. So I'm going to still continue to support Black authors no matter what. So y'all know, usually like the past 2 years, I've had a theme with each book. I've shared with you about life lessons and everything when it comes to these books that I've read. And most of these books have a certain theme as well, where it talks about ancestors, identity, loving yourself and knowing that you are enough, and you don't let people say or tell you what you can and cannot do. So the first book I want to share with you all, it's going to be a book that, because I've been doing a year-long read-along with one of my friends, Bree from Bree Tree Reads, and we've been doing a Zora Neale Hurston read-along. And one of the books that stood out to me was her memoir and how she grew up. I mean, throughout her books, we feel her essence of her upbringing and about her father and all that. So the first book I'm going to discuss is her memoir, which is Dust Tracks on a Road, and this is by Zora Neale Hurston. I know a lot of people don't like her style of writing or whatever, but if you give it a chance, I think you would fall in love with her writing. Like, one of her classics that have been my favorite is Their Eyes Were Watching God. And that was the only book I had read by her until this year. And I have one more book that I need to read by her before the year is over. It takes you on a journey. And with this one, she takes us on a journey from the beginning of how she loved reading books and how she had this type of spiritual awareness and how she was able to see things where maybe it was something within, the present or in the future. And sometimes I think about that, like you think of that in the past of how a lot of great people, a lot of great Black people in history had this type of spiritual awareness. And with her, she had that. And with this particular book with Zora, she always did what she loved. She was always adventurous. Yes, she had a lot of her upbringing was very traumatic regarding her mother and her father just doing his own thing and not accepting Zora at all because she wasn't a boy. This book, it made me think about myself and how, as for anybody, how we should not let anybody tell us what we cannot do. We should not put limits on ourselves. And I think we do this, and sometimes we're not aware that we do this. Sometimes I'm not aware, that I do this. And I feel like this gives you a reminder of that. But I want to read the synopsis, and what I plan on doing is, as I talk about these books, I am going to read the synopsis. So maybe this will be a book that you will be willing to read. So for this one, it says, at the height of her popularity came Dust Tracks on a Road, Zora Neale Hurston's candid, funny, bold, and pungent memoir, which is an imaginative and exuberant account of her rise from a humble childhood in the Royal South to her place as a prominent artist and intellectual of the Harlem Renaissance. As compelling as her acclaimed fiction, Hurston's very personal literary self-portrait offers a revealing, often audacious glimpse into the life, public and private, of an extraordinary writer. It says, full of the wit and wisdom of a proud, spirited woman who started off low and climbed high, Dust Tracks on a Road is a rare treasure for one of literature's most treasured and cherished voices. So I enjoyed this book. There were some books where it's like, geez, girl, like you, she talked about like the men she had been with, but I understand where it stems from, and it stems from her father and how her father treated her mother. So you know, how we are towards people or things that we do in our lives, it can stem from how we were raised and what we have seen while we were growing up. But yeah, I loved this book so much this year. That's why it became one of my top reads, you know, of 2023 by a Black author. And you know, Zora is no longer with us. She has been gone, but her legacy still lives on within these books. I still plan on reading another, you know, Barracoon by her as well, that came out some years ago or whatever. So I'm looking forward to it. But if you haven't read Zora, if you haven't read Their Eyes Are Watching God, if you just pick up like Their Eyes Are Watching God, there's quite a few. Let me see. Moses, Man of the Mountain. That's another good one where it talks about like Moses, but in a way where it makes sense. Like y'all just got to read it. But for right now, like, read her memoir. I promise you, it's an eye opener to so many things, not just Zora, but just the world in general, and what in today's society, especially in the US, what it still continues to do when it comes to Black authors and Black women as well. So just keep that in mind. So definitely, if you haven't read Zora, even if it's not this book, please pick up one of her books, because you're missing out. So yeah, this is one of the reads that I read this year and loved. The next book, this is also by, this is her debut novel. She, like I said, she's a Black author. All these books are by Black authors. And this brings on awareness as far as the church in the Black community. And this was very hard hitting for me. It's a problem that still happens within the Black community. I think that's another reason why I'm on a spiritual journey right now at the moment. Due to stuff that I seen growing up in the church myself. I was always going to church. My mom made sure that I got up early. We would go to first service and we would go to second service. She would always have me in the front pew with her. It was just, and she would always have me participating in church events and stuff like that. I was in mime. I was in the spiritual dance team that we had, the flag team. I was really heavily involved. And then I started noticing things that was very hypocritical. And it was very disturbing on what my pastor and his wife would tell me. And it just did not make sense to me. And it felt wrong, and it felt like a presence that I did not want to be a part of. So with this book, it's called All the Fighting Parts. This is by Hannah V. Sawyer right here. And I'm going to read the synopsis first before I get into this, because it's still a problem to this very day. So it says, 16-year-old Amina Kante has always believed in her using her voice as her weapon, even when it gets her in trouble. After cursing at a classmate, her father forces her to volunteer at their church with Pastor Johnson. But Pastor Johnson isn't the holy man everyone thinks he is. The same voice Amina uses to fight falls quiet the night she is sexually assaulted by Pastor Johnson. After that, her life starts to unravel. Her father is frustrated that her grades are slipping, and her best friend and boyfriend don't understand why the once loud and proud girl is now quiet and distant. In a world that claims to support survivors, Amina wonders who will support her when her attacker is everyone's favorite community leader. When Pastor Johnson is arrested for a different crime, the community is shaken and divided. Some call him a monster and others defend him. But Amina is secretly relieved. She no longer has to speak because Pastor Johnson can't hurt her anymore. Or so she believes. To regain her voice and sense of self, Amina must find the power to confront her abuser in the courtroom and her heart, and learn to use all the fighting parts within her. With that synopsis just alone, it tells you how deep this book is. And also, this book is written in verse, so it was a fairly quickly read for me, and it made me think about things that we see on the media, social media, like, you know, I don't know much about, you know, with the whole situation with Diddy and Cassie, but it seems like it's really deeper than what we think it is. You know, and then you have allegations about TD Jakes, which I don't know nothing about, so I can't really say much. It's just what's on social media at the moment. And then there are, you know, we've had pastors in the past that we're sleeping with young girls, and there probably are some out there in this world today that are doing that. And I think this is a good book to read, because these are happening to young girls and possibly even young boys as well. And they may be quiet and they may not express it, and they probably won't express it until they're older. Who knows? But the point of the matter is that it's happening, and we have to be aware of that, and we have to acknowledge that. And just with these young girls or young boys and what they're going through, I hope that, they end up, when in their own time, they'll stand confident and they have their own voice. And that's what I love with Amina. It was terrible for what happened to her within this book, because she always was loud and proud. She always had her voice, and then somebody had the audacity to take it away from her. And then eventually, towards the end of the book, she realized, no, I'm not letting anyone have power over me. I don't care who you are. I don't care what title you have. You will not withhold my voice. And that's just in general in the world, where you have certain people that feel like they get to have a say over your life, over what you need to do, or what you can do. I'm just keep saying this because it's a big theme within these books. And with her, she used her voice, even though it was hard, because don't get me wrong, it's probably going to be difficult. But when you're ready, when that time comes, go ahead and use your voice. Don't let anybody keep you quiet, I enjoyed this book. I'm glad that Hannah wrote this. It even has a letter with the reader, which I'll read it to you. So it says, "Dear reader, thank you for taking the time to dive into Amina's story. All the Fighting Parts is first and foremost a hug to survivors like my younger self. Secondly, it's my way of calling out abusers and the organizations and communities who protect them. Often, when abusers are respected or admired people like Pastor Johnson, they're protected rather than held accountable. But no level of respect or admiration can change the fact that these people are predators, and survivors deserve to serve protection and community support. As survivors, we often think of all the ways in which we could have prevented what happened to us. We think, if I didn't go to that party, or if I didn't choose to wear that dress, or if I didn't trust them the way I did. What I want survivors to know after reading the novel is that the shame we feel about our experience is not ours to carry, and it never was. I wrote this book while awaiting a trial after my assault, during a time in my life when I carried a lot of shame and felt like I had no control. At the time, all the Fighting Parts was the thing that I could control. I wanted to write a story that made me feel empowered, that made me laugh, cry, and ultimately explore what it means to fight back. If I could tell my younger self and young survivors one thing, it would be that even during the days, even when you feel defeated or small, you are still a fighter, because every day you survive. All the Fighting Parts is a story from the lens of a teenage girl who is angry, loud, and makes honest mistakes. Much like my teenage, and I'll be honest, my adult self. But above all, it's about a character whose healing journey is often both quiet and loud, fearless and fearful. And her story deserves to be amplified for all that it is. Because even silence carries a story worth telling. Thank you so much for picking up a copy of All the Fighting Parts. I hope you feel as empowered reading it as I felt while writing it. I hope Amina's story is one that speaks to you. And this story did speak to me. And even for this author, it was very, 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 very brave for her to share her story as well through the lens of the character in this book of Amina. So if you would love, I really would love for you to support this author here. I would love, all these books I'm sharing with you all today, support authors. Or even if it's not these book particular, support authors, support Black authors, because voices need to be heard. And a lot of these authors, there's some that have gone through something, but they provide you lessons, and just reading these books can give you something where it's like, oh my gosh, we can totally relate, So yeah, I love this book. Like I said, this is All the Fighting Parts by Hannah V. Sawyer. Definitely pick it up if you haven't done so. The next book that I recently read, which was very hard for me to read, to be honest with y'all, I had to put it down. I had it in my hands and had to put it down because it was just heavy hitting. But I liked the story that it was giving, especially when it comes to embracing your ancestors and embracing who you are as an individual and not letting someone keep telling you over and over again that you are nothing. So this book recently just came out, maybe a couple months or maybe 2 or 3 months ago. And that is Let Us Descend by Jasmine Ward. This is one of Oprah's book club picks for this year. And I really enjoyed this. I listened to the audio for this one as well. So I was hybrid reading where I had the physical book in my hand and I was listening to the audio. So I was reading along. And Jasmine Ward was the narrator of this book as well. And I'm going to go ahead and read the synopsis for this one, and then I'll get into it. So it says, Let Us Descend is a reimagining of American slavery. As beautifully rendered as it is heart-wrenching, searching, harrowing, replete with transcendent love, the novel is a journey from the rice fields of the Carolinas to the slave markets of New Orleans and into the fearsome heart of a Louisiana sugar plantation. Annis, sold south by the white enslaver who fathered her, is the reader's guide through this hellscape. As she struggles through the miles-long march, Annis turns inward, seeking comfort from memories of her mother and stories of her African warrior grandmother. Throughout, she opens herself to a world beyond this world, one teeming with spirits of earth and water, of myth and history. Spirits who nurture and give, and those who manipulate and take. While Ward leads readers through the descent, this, her fourth novel, is ultimately a story of rebirth and reclamation. From one of the most singularly brilliant and beloved writers of her generation, this miracle of a book inscribes Black American grief and joy into the very land, the rich but unforgiving forests, swamps, and rivers of the American South. Let Us Descend is Jasmine Ward's most magnificent novel yet, a masterwork for the ages. And so, like I said, it was hard-hitting. But it brings awareness to how far we've gotten and how far we still need to go as regarding the Black community in the U.S. and what we still need to fight for to this very day, what we're still going to continue fighting for, which is reparations and the respect that we deserve. You know, this government that we have, they constantly want our vote or whatever, but at the end of the day, they need to uphold the promises that they had spoken of, and yet that has not happened wholeheartedly. There's still some things that need to be done, that needs to change. Something needs to give, because, you know, to this day, police brutality is still a thing. It has not gone away. Not gone away. Racism is still alive and well. And I think people need to be aware of that. Some people are just ignoring it. They're turning their backs on it, but it's still here. It hasn't gone anywhere. We've seen this year what's been going on in Florida and Texas, people's rights being taken away, about not teaching about Black history, especially about slavery, when in the U.S. they make it seem they just want that to be gone. They want people to forget that history. No, we are not going to forget that history. We're not going to forget our ancestors and they built this country on their backs. And many people profited from that. And in the Black community, there's people in the Black community that are still suffering, even if it's for trauma, based off of trauma. Things that the Black community still goes through to this very day, that we go through. That's just a lot. And so for this particular book, Let Us Descend, we're following a girl named Annis who lives in a plantation, and her owner is her father, but her father doesn't claim her or whatever. But her mother, she was training her to fight and defend herself, because her mother was taught to defend herself from her mother, which so Annis's grandmother was a Dahomey warrior. And I think you see, if you could, like an example would be the movie for The Woman King, has Viola Davis in it. And that's a pretty much a good way of trying to give you an example of it. So Annis, from her mother to her grandmother, she was able to learn some stuff about her ancestors and her history and where she had come from. And just with that alone, of her mother helping her and training her to fight, and also letting her know that there may be a day where her mother may not be with her any longer. So she was preparing her daughter for that. She was preparing Annis for this. And I think that's what gave Annis this drive of wanting to do something, of wanting to be her own person, of looking forward to the new thing, of always reaching out to her ancestors for guidance and for help. And, it has this history of realization of, back with in the Dahomey kingdom, where the king, sold his own people, for trade. It talks about with Annis's grandmother and how she was sold, as well as her grandfather, because the king was upset that her grandmother was with a man, had a lover, because the Dahomey warriors, they were not supposed to be with no man, not one. The only man that they were supposed to love and support was the king. So he pretty much banished them and he sold them into slavery. And, at that time, her grandmother was pregnant with Annis's mom. So you have this huge history, and I'm glad that it brings up the history when it comes to the Dahomey Kingdom. I mean, we've seen movies by now, or if you haven't seen The Woman King, definitely just watch it. And with this, I like that it brings up the spiritual awareness and embracing your ancestors and asking for help and guidance. And for Annis to know about her grandmother based off of what her mother told her, that's amazing. I feel like a lot of people in the Black communities, especially, I'm still learning about my family and where we come from, because you got to dig deep, because during slavery, it was hard. They didn't allow us to read or write, right? So there was no documentation. The only documentation was from the slave owners, which there are some documentation out there in certain archives, but then there are some that were completely destroyed for their own purposes, because they didn't want it to be revealed or whatever, that they were slave owners. So a lot of times, and still today, we got to dig for our history and for knowing who we came from or where we came from. Who was our family, where were they? Where did they go? Especially for the families that were separated throughout the slave trade. So with this, like I said, this is a very hard-hitting book. I'm not going to lie to you. Like I said, I had to put the book down myself a couple times, but it is worth the read, and I really enjoyed it. The next book, this talks about not only just ancestors. Now, this is a YA book, but it also talks about family secrets and how detrimental it can be when you don't share any, you don't share what had happened in the past, and you just keep it to yourself, So with this one, it's Blood Debts by Tara J. Benton Walker. I did a book review about this particular book, which I'll leave up above so you can check it out. Also, going back to this one, Bria and I did a live discussion about it, which I'll leave that link up above as well. But this one, we're following two siblings, and there's LGBTQ rep within this book as well, which I do love that representation. And this one, a lot is happening. Like in the back, it says 30 years after the greatest magical massacre in their city's history, the rightful heirs of a stolen throne set out to right the wrongs in their family's past and bring about the justice they're owed. You see the theme that I'm having here? About justice, about righting the wrongs from the past. I don't even want to say much about this because I really want you to read it for yourself. This is the first book in the series. The next book is called Blood of Justice, I believe, which is right here. Here's the picture. So this is the first book in the series, and then there's the second one. So just a FYI, so to keep you aware that it's a series. But even let me read the synopsis for this one. So it says, in New Orleans, gods meddle and magic will betray you, but this time justice will reign. 30 years ago, a young woman was murdered, a family was lynched, and New Orleans saw the greatest magical massacre in its history. In the days that followed, a throne was stolen from a queen. On the anniversary of these brutal events, Clement and Christina Trudeau, the 16-year-old twins, heirs to the powerful magical dethroned family, and mourning their father and caring for their sick mother, until by chance, they discover that their mother isn't sick, she's cursed. Cursed by someone on the very magic council their family used to rule, someone who will come for them next. Christina, once a talented and dedicated practitioner of generational magic, has given up magic for good. An ancient spell is what killed their father, and she was the one who cast it. For Clement, magic is his lifeline, a distraction from his anger and pain. Even better than the random guys he hooks up with. Christina and Clement used to be each other's most trusted confidant and friend. Now they barely speak. But if they have any hope of discovering who is coming after their family, they'll have to find a way to trust each other and their family's magic, all while solving the decades-old murder that sparked the still rising tensions between the city's magical and non-magical communities. And if they don't succeed, New Orleans may see another massacre or worse. Like, you see the theme here. You see of how families are being, have trauma, generational trauma based off what happened in the past, and no one wants to bring up what happened in the past. And with these two siblings, they have to dig deep and do their research to see what happened. And this regards their grandmother, and I feel like with that, there's a lot of, with that, it could be prevented because secrets are very harmful and it's very hurtful. And finding out about stuff when someone was alive and didn't tell you, that's a problem. Yes, like, I get it. Like, sharing that information will be painful. It will hurt. But at the end of the day, you are stopping that cycle of keeping secrets and not saying anything and letting your future generations find out and be upset or in pain, and then that trickles down to the next generation. So we got to stop that cycle. We got to stop the cycle of secrets, and that's what the point of this particular book. Stop the secrets, share what you know, because within their family, as they're discovering what happened to their grandmother and their family, they now learn more information about their aunt, their aunts and stuff as well. So like I said, I did a whole book review. I'll leave it up above, but I really enjoyed this book and I'm looking forward to the second one in the series. So definitely read this if you haven't. And this is a YA book, by the way. The next book. Now this one in particular has a lot of authors within it, but the creator is Black. So I figured this will be a good one. I did a read along for this one for a couple months or whatever earlier this year. I actually read it page by page. I tabbed it up. I took notes within it. I did it all. And so the book that I want to talk to you about, which I have a feeling has been banned in certain states because they don't want us to know our history and what happened in the past. And this book is The 1619 Project, which was created by Nicole Hannah-Jones. Yes, I read this entire book this year, and I'm glad that I did that. It was an accomplishment. This book was really, 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 really hard to read because it just made you upset and made you mad. But there were some things that I learned that I did not know. It talks a lot about healthcare, especially when it comes to the Black community, and how there's in the Black community, there are people that do not like going to the doctor because of the things that they had done to us in the Black community, and then it talks about women, that are pregnant and the treatment that they give while they go to the doctor. It breaks it down. Like you could watch, I think the series is on Hulu still. You could definitely watch that too if you feel like it'd be too much for you to read. Watch that documentary on Hulu, and that still is a hard pill to swallow on everything that happened in the past and what is currently still happening in the Black community today. Like it's very hurtful, and they're blatantly doing this. And I feel like some people aren't aware, like when they're trying to take away our history and trying to say it wasn't slavery, whatever they want to call it. And it's still an issue today, especially with that one woman when I forget her name, I don't care, but she was asked, some person asked what started the Civil War, and she did not say slavery, not once. Or why the Civil War happened, not once. These government officials, the people that think they can rule over people because they have power and money, they are trying not to say anything regarding the wrongs that has been done in the past. And like what happened with the brawl that happened in Alabama. Like a lot of things happened this year, and I think, and it's probably going to still continue. And we're going to still demand our rights. So with this particular book, we learned a lot about things. We learned about the wealth gap. There's a lot of things within this book that we could really get into. I tabbed it up. Like, y'all can see this. I went in on this book, wrote notes in it because I, highlighted it. I did a whole bunch of things because I plan on keeping this book. I plan on sharing it with my kids when they get older, when they have ability to understand it. It talks about like the 15th Amendment. It talks about everything. It talks about, with George Floyd, it brings up a lot of key points about what is still happening in the Black community. Like I said, they won our votes, but yet and still they treat us like shit. Excuse my language, but I just had to say it. But anyways, I really, really enjoyed the things that I learned in this book that I had no idea about. It talks about, the housing market and how when for us it's hard to get a loan. They do this intentionally. So I like the awareness that it brings. So within the book, it has different sections. You have the origins, you have democracy, race, talks about sugar, and then it talks about fear, dispossession, capitalism, politics, citizenship, self-defense, punishment, inheritance. It talks about the medicine, about the church, music, healthcare, traffic, progress, and it talks about justice. So if you haven't picked this book up, if you want to, I highly recommend it. Or you know what, just listen to the audio. Whenever you're in your car or you're just sitting down and you ain't watching TV or whatever, listen to the audio if you're able to, or go to your library and pick up this book, because I'm telling you, there's a lot of information here that we as a community need to know and be aware of. And once we are aware of this, I feel like, and once we are aware, and once we come together as a people, come together regardless of our differences, a change is going to come. That's all I'm going to say. But yeah, I enjoyed this one. Definitely pick it up if you haven't. This next one, this is I believe this is an adult book. Now this is more into the fantasy realm. And that is Sing Me to Sleep by Gabby Burton. I enjoyed this book. I know like it was a big transition from talking about this into this. But it still has that theme of how people are being treated poorly because they are different. I did a book review for this. I don't want to get much into it, but I'll leave it up above. But I'll read the synopsis for you all, just to give you a little taste of what it's about. So it says, Cersei Surkova survives on secrets. You see that theme? Secrets? As the last siren in her kingdom, she can sing any man to any orderly grave, but her very existence is illegal, and if her true identity were ever discovered, it would be her life on the line. By day, Source disguises herself as a fae, pretending to be the perfect soldier in training. By night, she satisfies her darker urges, working as an assassin for dangerous mercenaries. And all the while, she keeps the biggest secret of all, that she's not always in control of her siren powers or her desire to kill. Then a blackmailer threatens her sister, and Cersei's investigation takes her to the royal palace and her most dangerous job yet, personal bodyguard to the crown prince. Cersei expects to despise Prince Hayes, but he is kind, thoughtful, and charming, and she finds herself increasingly drawn to him until he tasks her with investigating a killer plaguing the kingdom. The problem, the killer, is Cersei. Trapped by her deadly double life, Cersei can't leave the palace until she saves her sister, but who will save her from herself? And then it says, featuring an all black and brown cast, a forbidden romance, and a compulsively dark plot full of twists. The seductive YA fantasy is perfect for fans of The Cruel Prince and To Kill a Kingdom. So yeah, we have black sirens in here. Like it says, it has an all black cast, which I love. So if y'all love fantasy, if you want to get into it, because it talks about secrets, it talks about people not giving a crap about other people that are different from them, I highly recommend that you pick this up. I don't want to get into it because I did a full book review, but still, this was a fantastic book. It is a series. I don't know when the second book will come out, but I really, really enjoy this book. So if you are a fantasy reader, I highly recommend. The next book, which I loved, it has that Bridgerton vibe going. It has like Sense and Sensibility type of vibe, Pride and Prejudice type of vibe, if I may say. And I did a book review for this one, and I'm really looking forward to the second book, which is right here, which comes out sometime in 2024. So I'm excited. But the book I'm talking about is The Davenports by Crystal Marquis. I love this so much. Like, we follow these different women. They have all different circumstances. One woman wants to be an inventor, but her father doesn't want her to be. She doesn't want her to work on cars or whatever. And this is during the time of the Great Migration from the South to the North. So just keep that in mind. And then this story is located in Chicago. So we have a family that's really well off, that is rich, and they work on certain cars or whatever in transportation. And so he has, a son, daughter, and the daughter, they want her to marry well, but she's more interested in this other man who talks about, the justice for, Black people in the US and in the world, and how they deserve rights. So like, he's the person that she's interested in is mostly like he protests a lot, and he's like advocate for the Black community. So a lot of this book was really, really well written. I really enjoyed this. Like, let me read synopsis. Let me just give y'all an idea. So it says, in 1910, the Davenports are one of the few Black families of immense wealth and status in a changing United States. Their fortune made through the entrepreneurship of William Davenport, a formerly enslaved man who founded the Davenport Carriage Company years ago. Now the Davenports live surrounded by servants, crystal chandeliers, and endless parties, finding their way and finding love even where they're not supposed to. So there is Olivia, the beautiful elder Davenport daughter, ready to do her duty by getting married until she meets the charismatic civil rights leader Washington Dwight, and sparks fly. The younger daughter, Helen, is more interested in fixing cars than falling in love, unless it's with her sister's suitor. Amy Rose, the childhood friend turned maid to the Davenport sisters, dreams of opening her own business and marrying the one man she could never be with. Olivia and Helen's brother, John. But Olivia's best friend, Ruby, also has her sights set on John Davenport, though she can't seem to keep his interest until family pressure has her scheming to win his heart, just as someone else wins hers. The first book in a breathless new series, The Davenports, offers a glimpse into a period of African American history often overlooked, while delivering a totally escapist, swoon-worthy read. Inspired by the real-life story of C.R. Patterson and his family, it's a tale of 4 determined and passionate young Black women discovering the courage to steer their own path in life and love. Do I need to say more? Like, I tell you, there's a lot of history within this book, and there's a lot of it's realistic. There's history, there's love, there's a lot, and it's a Black cast that we're talking about, y'all. A Black cast. Y'all see this cover. Y'all see this. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to supporting Black authors, because we see ourselves in these books. We see ourselves in these books. And it just gives you some type of hope that, like I said, change is definitely going to come. I don't know when, I don't know how, but I just know as a community, we need to come together, y'all. We just need to come together. I love this. So another book that it gives you life lessons of going for what you believe in, of not letting someone tell you that you can't do it because you're a woman. That's another thing. And you should marry who you want to marry, be with who you want to be with. So I need to say less to this, because I don't need to say any more about this. Definitely pick it up if you haven't, because y'all missing out. The next book that I want to talk about, which I talked about the first book last year, called The Final Strife. And so this is the second book in the series. And the third book comes out later on in 2024, I believe in August, I believe. So the book I'm talking about is The Battle Drum. I did a live discussion on my channel, which I'll leave up above. We're continuing this adventure of discovering new things, and we're realizing things that happened in the past that are developing in the present. I don't want to spoil it for anybody, because this book is awesome. This series is awesome. If you haven't picked up that first book after I talked about it in my last year's video, definitely pick it up now, because you are missing out, y'all. Y'all missing out, because this is an adult fantasy book right here. So for this one, I'll read the synopsis, and y'all see I tabbed it up. I was tabbing it up like crazy and highlighting. But for the synopsis, It says, murder, secret, sacrifice. Three women seek the truth of the empire's past, and the truth they find will have the power to ignite a war, and the sequel to The Final Strife, the continuation of a visionary fantasy trilogy inspired by the myths of Africa and Arabia. Honor is the first blue-blooded ruler of the Warden's empire, but when she is accused of a murder she didn't commit, her reign is thrown into turmoil. She must solve the mystery and clear her name without the support of her beloved Scylla. Scylla braves new lands to find a solution for the hurricane that threatens to destroy her home. But in finding answers, she must make a decision. Should she sacrifice her old life in order to raise up her sword once more? Hassa's web of secrets grow ever thicker as she finds herself on the trail of crimes in the city. Her search uncovers the extent of the atrocities of the empire's past and present. Now she must guard both her heart and her land. The three women find their answers, but not the answers they wanted. The drumbeat of change thrums throughout the world, and it sings a song of war. Ready we will be when the ending fire comes, when the child of fire brings the battle drum. The battle drum, the battle drum. Ready we will be, for war will come. And this talks about, like in the first book, it talks about a people coming together and ready to create change. Because, you know, in this book, the first book in this book, it talks about people who are divided based on the color of their blood. And this is realistic because yes, this is fantasy, but it talks about division amongst different communities. And that's a thing. That is a thing throughout the world, not just in the US. So y'all got to read this. You got to read it. You got to read it. Read the first book, then read this one and tell me what you think. Because it's really good. I know some people have they don't know about it. They were contemplating on reading the first one, but just give it a try. And then once you give it a try and it's not for you, that is perfectly fine. But give it a try before you knock it. So definitely look into this one. All right, I have 3 more books. I know I've been talking and rambling on about these books because I'm really passionate about all these books I've read this year. So I'm not going to get too much heavier. But the next book that I love so much was All the Sinners Bleed by S.A. Cosby. This talks about the awareness of missing children, especially missing Black kids in the U.S. and how, sorry y'all, I don't know what that noise was, but how the country in the U.S. of how they are not searching for these kids. They are ignoring it. They aren't doing anything. Especially in Cleveland. I'm in Columbus, but in Cleveland, you have a lot of these Black children that are missing and no one seems to give a care. No one seems to do anything or give an effort to try to look for them. And this is a book right here that talks about it and talks about one particular character in this book that cares and goes into the nitty-gritty and tries to find out where these kids are and where they have gone to, where they have disappeared, who is behind all this. And I love this book so much. It's S.A. Cosby. S.A. Cosby is my auto-buy read when it comes to the authors, and I love it. I love his writing. I've also listened to the audio as I'm reading this book. It's amazing. But I'll read the synopsis. So it says, a Black sheriff, a serial killer, a small town ready to combust. Titus Crown is the first Black sheriff in the history of Sharon County, Virginia. In recent decades, Sharon has had only 2 murders. After years of working as an FBI agent, Titus knows better than anyone that while his hometown might seem like a land of moonshine, cornbread, and honeysuckle, secrets always fester under the surface. Then a year to the day after Titus's election, a school teacher is killed by a former student, and the student is fatally shot by Titus's deputies. Those festering secrets are now out in the open and ready to tear the town apart. As Titus investigates the shootings, he unearths terrible crimes and a serial killer who has been hiding in plain sight, haunting the dirt lanes and woodland clearings of Sharon. With the killer's possible connections to a local church and the town's harrowing history weighing on him, Titus projects confidence about closing the case while concealing a painful secret from his own past. At the same time, he also has to contend with a fair right group that wants to hold a parade in celebration of the town's Confederate history. Sharon is Titus's home and his heart, but where faith and violence meet, there will be a reckoning. Powerful and unforgettable, All the Sinners Bleed confirms S.A. Cosby as one of the most muscular, distinctive, grab you by both ears voices in American crime fiction. And like I said, the theme that I've been having with these books is like it comes all in one. It talks, we brought up the church. The people that they trust, they didn't know that he was the person involved regarding the killings and missing, regarding the killing of these children that were missing for a long period of time. Do I need to say more? Do I need to say more? It talks about secrets, and it talks about people that we trust in the community are the ones that are hurting the children, the abusers. It's a theme here. It is a theme, especially when it comes to the book that I mentioned earlier, which, where is it? This one in particular, All the Fighting Parts. In the Black community, they trusted a person. Now this person that is the perpetrator, is a person that they loved, a person that they loved so much, who was their favorite teacher. They loved him. He was always in their community, supporting them or whatever. And come to find out, he was a serial killer. Definitely pick up this book, y'all. Pick it up. S.A. Cosby, you cannot go wrong with this one. The next book, I did a book review for this, so I won't get much into it. I will leave that up above as well. And that is I Am Aya, The Way Home. This is by Donna Hill. I love Donna Hill's writing, and I love this particular book. It talks about one of the main character comes home, after finding out that her father is sick. And, she has to build that relationship back. They never really had a great relationship. And then over time, as she's trying to take care of her father, and then the passing of her father, she embraces who she is and looks into the history of her family. And then of course there is a love story in this as well. But I'll read the synopsis. But it says, Alexandra Fleming has spent most of her life running from her past. Her budding photography career, her life in Manhattan, all serve to distract from the secrets and guilt she's never been able to face. Then the call. Her estranged father is in the hospital, and Alexandra must return home to Sag Harbor, crumbling the first wall between her past and her present. For some, coming home is a relief. For Alexandra, it's a reminder of the families she's lost, of the time she'll never regain. But the answers, the secrets of her family are hidden in the house, waiting for her. And the only one who may be able to help her uncover them is her father's neighbor, Zach, who brings with him an attraction that's intense and instantaneous, yet oddly familiar. Now Alexandra is being pulled back not only into her own complex family history, but into the richly documented lives of 4 extraordinary women. Generations touched by tragedy and triumph, despair and hope, and it's in these aching echoes of the past that Alexandra's own story, her mistakes, and her capacity to love will take shape, guiding her to the life she's meant to live and the extraordinary person she will become. Talking about history, talking about secrets, talking about the past, I'm telling you, secrets really is destroying us. It really is. I told you once again, there was a theme with these books. I selected them. I love them so much, but they all have a lot in common. It's the secrets. It's how, about the past and how family don't want to share it with them. It talks about overcoming your fears, confronting what bothers you, but also embracing who you want to be in this world, and how you want to use your gift to spread the knowledge of what you learned about who you are, about your family. And it took her to go back home to realize that she needed to look into her past and see what happened as far as generations prior to her, her mother and her grandmother and all that. And it's hard. As I was reading this book was really hard it's going to be hurtful finding out what happened in the past, but then now you are aware, and now you're aware and able to break that cycle. But yeah, love this. I did a book review, so definitely check that out. And last but not least, my final book, which is nonfiction. I love her as a person. I love her as an actress. Just amazing. This book was, it was eye-opener because I had no idea that this was going on with, about in her life and what she was going through. And I love her for it. And I'm going to leave it at that. And that is Finding Me by Viola Davis. I love this book so much. This book came out in 2022. It is what it is. I'm glad that I finally picked it up. And I love this. I love Viola Davis. She is an awesome person. I don't know her personally, but just from seeing her and having her talk, she just got EGOT. I was loving it. I love her as a person. I'm going to read the synopsis so you get an idea. So it says, in my book, you will meet a little girl named Viola who ran from her past until she made a life-changing decision to stop running forever. This is my story, from a crumbling apartment in Central Falls, Rhode Island, to the stage in New York City and beyond. This is the path I took to finding my purpose, but also my voice in a world that didn't always see me. As I write Finding Me, my eyes were open to the truth of how our stories are often not given close examination. We are forced to reinvent them to fit into a crazy, competitive, judgmental world. So I wrote this for anyone running through life untethered, desperate and clawing their way through murky memories, trying to get to some form of self-love. For anyone who needs reminding that a life worth living can only be born from radical honesty and the courage to shed facades and be you. Finding Me is a deep reflection, a promise, and a love letter of sorts to self. My hope is that my story will inspire you to light up your own life with creative expression and rediscover who you were before the world put a label on you. Embracing who you are. Not letting someone say that you can't do this or you can't be that. No. Don't let anyone say that to you. Don't let them get under your skin. Don't let them change your mindset on things. No. Don't let anyone have any power over you whatsoever. And this is pretty much what this book is. There's been people saying that she can't do this based on her looks. She can't do that. No. And you know what? You know what you could do? You could prove them wrong. Prove them wrong. Show them. Because apparently, you know, they just look down on you anyway. So I'm like, all right, I don't need to talk about it. I'm going to be about it. So, love this. Viola Davis, this was very inspiring book. Like all these books I've been sharing with y'all today, very inspirational, very inspiring. Yes, it's hard. It hurts. It hurts to uncover secrets. It hurts for people to say this stuff about you when they don't know you. It hurts when somebody say you can't do this or you can't do that. These books are inspirational because it says that you can. You can be what you want to be. It may be a hard road, but we all together on this. We all want to do something with our lives. Yes, it's going to be a hard road. Yes, there may be ups and downs, but as long as you get back up and keep doing what you want to do, you already winning. You are already winning. But that's all I'm going to say to that, because I'm getting really passionate about this. And sorry, y'all, I was about to shed some tears because I'm like, this world, when it comes to the Black community, they always say something about we can't do this and we can't do that. And we're like, you know what? We're going to prove to you by our actions, because actions speak louder than words. I don't need to talk. I'm going to show you. But that is it. If I keep talking, y'all, I could ramble on and on about each and every one of these books because they are that good. I strategically, I picked these books out particular because not only have they similar themes, but they are very powerful. They are powerful, the words that they have within these pages. So these are all the books, my top reads of 2023 by Black authors. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please, please, please give me a thumbs up. Also, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and that bell to be notified when I upload more videos in the future. And once again, thank you all for watching, and I hope you all are staying healthy and staying safe. Bye, everyone.